Hey, welcome back to another episode of Breakthrough, a Dale Carnegie podcast that's targeted to young adults, educators, and parents. And really, our mission really is just to add value. How do we get individuals, young adults to study more and to get their full potential, parents to maybe lead more effectively, and certainly want to add value to the educators out there. I am Neville DeLucia. I'm the co-host along with my colleague, Faith the Right. And man, I'm excited about our next presenter, or our next guest, should I say, not presenter, but I met Matthew in the hallways at Frontier RTP and was just taken by greeting someone, and the person responds dynamically straight away. And it was not that you weren't engaging, Matthew. I think it was how you showed up in that simple conversation and just being so, genuine and sincere in that connection. And when I mentioned, who I was and what I did, you said, "Hey, man, How to Win Friends and Influence People" was a book that you read at a young age. But what really intrigued me is that you knew you want to be in business for yourself. You had an entrepreneurial mindset from when you were 15. You're passionate about property and real estate, and certainly want to make a difference to the education system, man. So wow. So welcome, Matthew. Please tell us a bit about you. Why real estate, if I may ask?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on here. I just want to say that it's definitely an honor. I was kind of taken back when you asked me to be on a podcast, so it's a new experience, but I'm excited to be here. Real estate, why real estate? I stumbled onto real estate because I had tried a bunch of different things, right? Like you said, from a young age, I was entrepreneurial. And I think after trying different mediums and different industries, right? Like social media marketing, all this stuff, landscaping, I just found real estate to be a long-term investment, right? I like real estate. It's fun. It's fun projects. And so real estate was just a calling that I felt, and then I got into it, and it worked out. It was like, this is fun. This is going to set me up really well for the future. So that's the short answer of why real estate was a choice for me.
Yeah, fantastic, man. And
Yeah.
as I shared in the introduction, when I met with you, it's how you came across that, really how you showed up. They left a very good impression on me personally, right? And as you think about how you engage with, in your career, in the medical field, and how you engage with your investments that you want to make, tell us about how when you were starting your businesses and having them all be profitable, what was it that you did that you felt had people be attracted to who you were as a person?
In terms of what was drawing them to me as a business owner?
As a business owner or as an individual, how did you show up differently to, I guess, what was the law of attraction? What did you do that made people warm to you, if that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I mean, really what kickstarted, I guess, my values in business was that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, seriously, when you said you were with Dale Carnegie, I was like, no way. Like, that is basically the foundation of my entrepreneurial path. So really the values in that book, being genuine with people, right? Wanting to reciprocate, and bring an attitude of, I guess, giving, right? But also, while we're in business for ourselves, but we want to make sure that the people that we're in business with are feeling like they can trust you, right? So that was the approach that I had, was, I want to do business, I want to make money, but I want to do it the right way. I don't want to be some guy that's trying to sneak around or just in it for himself. And I think, just going back to the book, I think that really honed in. That was a big key point in that book, was getting people to help you out essentially on your journey, but in the correct
I love that. You said bring an attitude of giving, and I think that's so important. You mentioned an element of trust there, how it's important for people to trust you before buying from you. I was wondering if you could go into that a little bit of how you exemplify a person of integrity, someone that people can trust, and how that has played out for you and worked for you in this space.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we look at it from a place of trust, it's more connecting on a human level, right? It's not just business, right? People buy from people that they like. So when you go into a business deal, if you're conversing with someone as if they're just another human, then you get to see this side of people and they get to see the side of you that's real, right? So I think that's where trust is really built on. And I think it's important to remember that you want to be genuine about it, because there's so many folks out there that are not genuine, but they can make you think they're building trust when it's not really the main motive. So that's the approach that I take, like in medical sales, right? I work with doctors quite a bit, and I mean, medical sales has been a thing forever. So they know that if you're not a genuine person, if you're not really trying to help them, you're going to be just put down so fast. And so that's something that is really important, I think, in all aspects of sales and life. So
Sales and life, bringing that authenticity might be a good word for it as well.
Yeah.
Being authentic to who you are. And I love how you were saying it's not about who's in the room. If you just treat them like a friend or any other human, instead of kind of putting them on this pedestal, it brings a different level of relation and connection that you can have with them, and really be authentic. So how do you, if you go into maybe a meeting with someone that is of high, I don't know how to say it. I guess you might be putting them on a pedestal in your mind. How do you knock them off of that and come across like a friend would, or just really relational?
So they have this title, right? How do you engage them? You know, that imposter syndrome can maybe just go to the side. Yeah, great. How do you do that? Awesome.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is that I try and think of it, and sometimes it's difficult, right? I mean, especially in business, you're like, okay, my goal here is clearly to win this person's business. But for example, when I'm at, traveling and meeting with doctors, they don't want you to just walk up and be like, hey, I have this product, let's buy, or will you buy? It's important to come in just like I think of it as like meeting, like just talking to someone at like a coffee shop or a restaurant or whatever it is. Get to know them, get to maybe find some common ground in terms of, hey, oh, you like sports too? I like sports, whatever it is. Or, you like reading? I really like reading. By doing that, you find common ground outside of business that is like, oh, this is also just a regular person. And that's really taken me very far, especially with doctors, right? Because they are smart people. And sometimes it's like all science, it's high science. So to bring them down into like a realm of, I guess, normalcy, like with everyone else, that's always something I try and do by finding common ground.
You're on that common ground. It doesn't matter who we are, what our background is, what our life choices were or are, but if we can find that commonality, we can build a relationship from there. It does make that trust happen a lot quicker too, right? You said people do business with people that they like, right? So we definitely start that. And if we find that common ground, certainly we can build and develop trust. And that's so important for us. I'm thinking about, you were saying how you found your passion in real estate, and you working with doctors, etc. And you got this passion. We engage with a lot of high school learners and college students, and sometimes they're not sure what that passion is. What is some advice you can maybe give with our listeners around identifying what is your passion and really just going for it, right? And you know, things that we do is a means to an end. And what advice would you give for someone that maybe isn't sure? And how do they find that passion?
Yeah, I think that's so important. I consider myself very lucky to have found something that I was passionate about from a young age, right? Which ultimately was business. But to do that, you know, I didn't start off, right? Like I remember my first business was landscaping, right? It was just a summer little company that I started in my neighborhood in high school. But then eventually I moved away from that, right? And then I went to social media marketing and I tried another type of sales. So I think the biggest thing that I could suggest to teenagers looking for, you know, what they want to do is first of all, don't worry about it, right? Like you're so young, you have a lot of time. And with that time, I think it's important to explore everything, right? Because you might even find that you have more than one passion. You could like art, and you could also like business, right? Or you could want to be a writer. So I think by trying as many things as possible, and there's so many people that say that out there, right? I'm not the first person. I mean, I'd probably learned that from someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? He always says that. So by trying multiple things, you can go by process of elimination and learn along the way. That's what I'd say.
And the fact that you started out the landscaping, then went to multimedia marketing and making the decision, I guess being decisive is important, and actually making the decision.
Yeah.
How did you overcome the doubt? I mean, were there times that you were doubting, should you stop the landscaping and should you shift? I mean, and if there was doubt, what made you say, hey man, I've got this, I can make this transition? You know?
Yeah. What made me overcome it? That it just didn't feel right. I mean, my heart wasn't in it. And I think that's important to listen to, right? I think there's so many people out there today that push, which is important, of course, right? Hard work and pushing through, you know, obstacles. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, you know, is this actually right for me, right? And you tried it. I mean, there's maybe a little bit of a stigma around leaving or quitting, right? But in my eyes, it's not quitting if you're not passionate about it. So that helped me overcome leaving something, starting new. It was just knowing that my heart wasn't in it.
I think that takes a lot of self-awareness, right?
It does. Yeah.
Knowing who you are, what you're passionate about, the peace that you feel when you're doing something, when you're not, you know, it's easy to lose track of time doing the things that you're so passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good gauge for me is, man, are my days flying by? Is the time that I'm spending going by super quickly because I'm just like in my element and in that flow? So I really think it does take the self-awareness of, you know, is my heart at peace with this? Does it line up with my passions? And could I do this all day, every day? Do I lose track of time doing it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, there's a fine line, because at a certain point, your passions might not be as strong, right? When things get tough,
yeah,
you might feel the desire to walk away or be like, I don't want to do this. So I think it's a mix of components, and that second important part is discipline. Where it's like, yes, okay, here's my passion. I know it's my passion. You know, I don't want to stop doing it, but this part's hard. Let me just keep going with it. You know, do I have the discipline to keep plugging along? You know.
Well, I mean, there's two things that ring true here for me, and Faith, and I love what you're saying there, Matthew. There's this, and I wrote it down. It's passion is what drives us through the hard times, and then the discipline is what makes us continue to do that.
Yep.
Those are two things that are so often, I guess, misunderstood, right?
Mhm.
The discipline side, and to have that passion. But not everything in the work that we do is fun. I mean, there's 20% of the things I do I love, and there's 40% that I don't love. So I need to have that passion to get through the areas that maybe I don't love. That is such good advice.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've enjoyed about being in North America is the entrepreneurial mindset. You know, you work in successfully as a medical, in the medical field, in selling equipment to doctors, etc. You got this organization that you're running, and you're building your passion to this real estate. When there are people that are going to start work and they're looking at their side hustle, their side gig, that may give an employer like myself, maybe an employer, like a little bit of insecurity. What would you say to an employer like me, or to someone that's maybe got the side gig, to say, hey man, you've got to be true to both? How do we make sure that, hey, you got my back, I've got yours? How do we keep that relationship good and strong? What suggestions would you have, or what are you doing that's working for you in that space?
I'm very fortunate to have a very tight-knit team, right? They understand that it's a big part of our team culture to have outside things going on. So I think that's the first thing, right? If you go into a company and your employer is not very understanding, you know, you have this other passion, but he's maybe pressuring you to only focus on work, or she's pressuring you to only focus on work. That can be difficult. I think at that point, you know, you just have to decide, is this company the right fit? So I think the foundation of that question, or the answer to that question, would be relationship first, right? Like finding people that understand your life path and your goals and are willing to support you. And then again, it goes back to that reciprocation, where if you find that relationship and they're willing to support you, then you support them and you trust each other. And that's how I'd say that's how you balance it, is just finding that right circumstance.
Yeah, I'm thinking about some of the workshops we've run, Faith, at colleges, where we do interview skills, right? And then often we're going for the interview, but it sounds like what you're doing is you're also interviewing them, aren't you, Matthew? You're saying there's, hey, I want to work for this company. I've done some research. Am I a good fit for you? And are you a good fit for me? And that's what's resonating here, what you're saying. So if you were a fly on a wall and you're observing, you know, Faith and I running these workshops around communication and interview skills, what advice would you give these upperclassmen that are going for their internship interviews and they're going for their job interviews, maybe they graduated, to make sure that they've got that mindset of, I'm also interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing me? You know, what suggestions or what guidance could you give to those individuals?
We have a saying for everyone in sales and business. If you've watched the movie, what is it? I think it's Boiler Room. There's a saying where it's Glengarry Glen Ross.
Okay.
It's an old sales movie, right? One of my favorites, but it's Alec Baldwin, and he has an acronym on the board. It's always be closing, right? So we changed that in our organization to always be questioning.
Right.
So ABQ. And so that would be the advice that I'd give. Just like you said, I mean, your time is valuable. So no matter what, I'm a big proponent of, right, money is important, but so is your time, and so is your well-being. And so if you're interviewing at a company and, you know, maybe some things look good about it, it's high pay or whatever it is, but then it doesn't seem to really fit your goals or your personality, then I don't know, maybe think about if money is the main factor, right? Because at a certain point, money does it does lose its appeal, and happiness and the way you feel becomes much more important. So always be questioning, ask questions, have questions prepared, right? Do your research on that company, see what other people say, and go in with a load of questions. And not only is that going to help you, but it will help them see that you're an inquisitive person and you're serious about working wherever that interview is.
I'm curious, Matt, did you learn this the hard way? When was like the breakthrough moment for you, either in your mindset or career, where you learned something valuable? Was it around this, or was it something completely different?
I've definitely had interviews that I've gone into and not gotten, but I don't know so much that it was from that experience. I think I've just always been I've just always been an inquisitive person, right? So I don't jump into things blindly. I have so many questions before I start. I have things that I want to know. Just like I said, I mean, it is coming from a place of experience where it's like, if I was in an interview, I would want to know all these things that a company is offering or not offering. So I don't know if that answers the question. I guess it's just from a place of personal approach.
Yeah. Has there been a breakthrough moment for you around like the discipline aspect, or around mindset? Like
in terms of
something that you've had to overcome, like challenges in your life where you've had to really push through, be disciplined or resilient and overcome them?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, the real estate thing is not all sunshine and rainbows by any means, right? And that's what a lot of people say makes them skeptical about getting into real estate. I think real estate could be a huge opportunity for so many people, but it's that fear factor that pushes them away. So that includes, the fears. The ones that I hear the most are, well, what if a tenant is bad? What if a tenant, doesn't pay or anything? Just this morning, I woke up to a text from my tenant, and she sent me a picture of a leak in the roof. And I have so many meetings this morning. This call, I was like, this could not be a worse day for them. But I still love it. I reminded myself, this is why I do it. It doesn't matter if there are leaks, right? There's going to be problems in anything that you do. So yeah, that mindset, that is my mindset. That's how I push through those problems is, this is why I'm doing this end goal. And there's definitely going to be obstacles no matter where you go in life. But it's the end result that you do it that is the reason why you do it.
And what you're sharing is great, because it's I can make it happen mindset. I think sometimes when things go wrong, we have, why me? Right? You were saying this interview couldn't have come on a worse day for you. So you think,
no, not the interview, the leak.
I meant to say the leak. I meant to say the leak. I'm sorry, the leak. I could have come. I meant that. So we're in this interview, and you got this leak happening, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. The leak, right? And you got this I can make it happen mindset. And to have this mindset of I can, a proactive, positive, I can deal with change mindset.
Right.
That is something that really allows us to be successful or impactful, and to make that difference. Now, often people look to the Elon Musks of the world, the Steve Jobses, these large CEOs of these multinational organizations, and they are in awe with their leadership. But really, it's individuals like you that are making a difference on the ground, inspiring and make an impact. What are the things that you would, before we close up, what are the things that you would say to other business owners like myself, right? Others that want to get into business? What can we do to leave the world or that meeting or that conversation making the other person feel a little bit better, right? As entrepreneurs, as business owners, or as leaders of teams, what would your advice be to someone like me or to others that are in that leadership space?
I'd say I'd say it just goes back to that trust thing. I don't think if you're a genuine person, like Faye said, if you're, or maybe as you know, authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Authenticity. If you're authentic, then I don't think there's anything that you need to do. You know, I think that if you have people's best interest in mind, if you're displaying trust, if you're displaying that you're willing to help, then I think that's enough for a lot of people. I think that's enough to be like, you know what, I trust this leader. I trust this person that's and that's the word. That's the word, is trust.
Love that.
So I think if you're authentic, if you're coming from a place of wanting to help, then that'll be good enough.
Yeah.
Everyday leaders making a difference, man. Love that. Love that.
That resonates a lot with me, that servant leadership piece, being willing to help.
Correct. Yeah.
If you have someone leading you that's willing to support you in any way that they can and really be that helping hand instead of just, barking orders, like I'm sure some leaders do. Thankfully, it sounds like Matt, as well as me too, we have a space where we have leaders that are servant leaders, and that is so important and builds that trust factor. So if people want to connect with you, maybe ask about entrepreneurship or real estate, how can people connect with you on social media?
I have social media. I have Instagram. I don't really use that. So I'm not on social media too much. I mean, my LinkedIn is a great place. But honestly, my phone number, if anyone has questions, I'm a huge proponent for helping, especially young people, right? Like the youth, teenagers that want to learn about this and start off from an early stage. I'd totally be willing to just give out my number. And I don't know if you do that, but give out my number or email. And if anyone has questions, then feel free to text me or call me.
For sure. We can put that in the comment section below. Also, if you want to follow the podcast to be able to get a notification whenever we put out a new episode, please hit the subscribe button and follow us on Greater East NC for Instagram. Thank you so much, Matt, for this encouragement and just being super raw and authentic yourself and elevating others to do the same. And thank you to my co-host Neville as well. We'll see you guys back for Breakthrough, a Dale Carnegie podcast on the next episode. Thanks.
Guys.
Ciao, everyone.